Hey guys, I'm sitting here with someone who I met many years ago and stayed in touch for a long time. Someone that I look to for advice and inspiration. And I'm sure she'd be a little bit red when I say that, but I really do look up to this lady. So pilot, 5 degrees, very different to what you'd expect. So I know she told me not to say that, but very different to what you'd expect someone. I guess the whole idea of an academic. Sally is everything except very open to pretty much any kind of concepts, which is why I think we get along so well. So, Sal, thanks for joining us. We're talking about leadership in crisis, and obviously being a pilot, and some of the other cool things you're doing. One of the things that you're on the Advancing X program at the moment. So, the Australia's female only astronaut, is that right? Only person astronaut.
I'm going with that. So. Good grief. Dr. Andy Thomas, if you're watching this, mate, so we've had Paul Scully Power and Andy Thomas go into space. They were born in Australia, but they became American citizens to go into space. So hopefully when I go, I'm going to be Australia's first Australian citizen into space. And as yet, I'm the only Aussie still in the program. So get your applications in, everyone.
Awesome. So, now, when you talk about things in crisis, I mean, the thing that I first of all think of is that, we're certainly in a crisis at the moment, what people feel or perceive to be a crisis. And, when you're up in the air and you're flying along and you've got 400 passengers or 300 passengers and things happen, no doubt, up in the air. And you have to kind of manage not only your own emotions, but your team's emotions. How do you cope with that?
I think it's twofold. I think, quite a lot of times you go to work and you put your work hat on. Certainly I react to things at work differently to how I react at home. The concept of just stopping, taking a breath and assessing the situation is something we're trained to do at work. When my son scuffed his brand new $90 shoes on the first day of school, I did not have a very pilot reaction. So I think in this time of crisis, as you call it, we are allowed to react however we're going to react, as long as we reflect on that later and go, was that appropriate? Was that right? Because you can always make right something. Yeah. In aviation, though, it's definitely stop, confirm the failure. So just stop. Make sure that what you think is broken is what's broken, and then say, and sometimes people even say it out loud. They say, right, what have we got? What have we lost? Because sometimes it doesn't even matter focusing on what have we lost. If you just take enough time to focus on what have we got, you then quickly realize you actually don't have a problem.
Gotcha.
So you can apply that to today. Like, what have we lost? Okay, well, if you focus on that, it gets very negative and you're all into all these negative terms. But what have we got? I've got a week at home with my kid that I normally never get because I'm normally away traveling. Yay. Although don't ask me about that next week. If you focus on what you've got, it's positive language, and then you feel better. And then when you feel better, because emotions are contagious, you're making everyone else feel better. So rather than thinking about, oh, my holiday, or I can't do this now, start thinking about what you can do with what you've got. You will find within a very short period of time, you feel great, and then you've got the capacity to then help other people cope and feel great. And that's more important than focusing on your cancelled holiday or function or whatever's going on at the moment.
Yeah, because I mean, I think that's a really valid point, right? Like, we've still got for the most part, most of us still have our health and our well-being in our family and all those kinds of things. So it's how do you make use of that time? So yeah, obviously we had a quick chat yesterday, or a long chat yesterday, I should say, but talking about, obviously you've been stood down from work, and how are you handling that? Because that, I'm guessing a lot of people are going to be in that same boat.
Well, actually being so literal, being in a boat would actually be really good right now. You'd be able to get around. It is what it is. So, yeah, once you, it's really funny. You said, how did I handle that? I had no reaction whatsoever. It was like, okay, once those big decisions are made and it's so far out of your scope of control, it is what it is. So yeah, so I obviously don't go to the airport this week and fly an airplane internationally. Okay, do something else. Like, it's almost like I don't understand the question, because people shouldn't be defined by what they do. It's a joy and it's a privilege, but if what you do is who you are, that's a bigger issue than what's going on currently. So for me, you just process, okay, well, where's the money for food going to come from? You look in the fridge and go, all right, this will get me through to here. And you just start making a plan. But I think as a species, we're too forward projecting to next year and your 5-year plan. And I think when stuff like this happens, you really need to just, who cares, and do today. Because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. This is changing by the hour. So don't stress about where are you going to pay your bills next week. If the money's not there, you're actually not going to have it to pay it. So it's that simple. It's not there, you can't pay it. Everyone's in the same boat. So you really just have to get back to the 5 basic principles of survival, which is protection, location, water, food, and morale. And morale's really important to me, because so many people have been messaging me this week going, oh, thank you for that post. That made my day. I'm not Celeste Barber. God bless her. She's amazing. I don't get up in the morning and try to be funny. That's not who I am. I just try to be me, and apparently that's hilarious, which sometimes is quite offensive because I'm not trying to be funny and yet people see you're already laughing at me. But you just have to follow those basic survival principles, which is protection. Okay, no one's going to come and take the roof off of my head. Location. Okay, I'm here, I'm with my family. Water, we've still got running water, so you can still go out, get some gum leaves off the trees, make some billy tea. Great, cool. Food, I didn't hoard, but I've got some in my freezer. And morale, then just laugh about it. Like, laugh about what we're going to do. I'm a dreadful cook, so some of the things that my family are going to be subjected to in the next few weeks are going to be hilarious. So if my kid wants to have chocolate cake for dinner, more power to him until that runs out and I have to start cooking. So go for it.
So I love that last bit that you said. I mean, you know, the 4 main things that we need for survival, we have, and the last one, which is probably one of the more important ones. Yes, food and water is really important, but morale. Like, how do you keep morale? I mean, you jump on a plane, you go from Melbourne to Singapore. It's a long flight. Like, you're sitting in a chair. How do you keep morale in your team, even when things aren't going wrong? Like, how do you do that?
Well, I don't have to really in my team, because, and I'm going to shout out to them, and I'm not sure media haven't given me permission to do this, but Virgin are all colours of the rainbow. So you're going to show up to work knowing that as long as you do your job, you can do your job with whatever hair colour you've got, gay, straight, tall, short, fat, thin. Just do your job and do it within the bubble that you are born with. So for me, that's then a great melting pot of, it's not just going to be a stagnant 12-hour shift talking about the weather, because everyone is so diverse and different. And like talking about going to the school and what book do they believe in, rather than not talking about it and only talking about the weather, you go, okay, what are you into? And my crew is so interesting, way more interesting than me. And that way you learn. You just, wow, the time just went like that. So I think with morale, you just have to talk to people. And we're really fortunate in this lockdown. They're not going to lock down social media. So if everyone can just stop talking about the virus and start posting their meal preps again and posting the stupid things I'm going to cook, and then everyone's going to get a laugh out of it. Like, some of the memes already are just phenomenal, and they're fabulous. And I think we need to get back on with it.
Yeah. And you mentioned the book, right? Like, we talked about this before. We haven't spoken about this in the video. So the book concept, I love it. Tell me about the book concept.
Well, everyone believes in something, and it just doesn't matter if you believe in the Bible, the Quran, Buddha, you're a Jedi, Harry Potter. Talk about it, because it's actually appreciating everyone's differences. We then very much realize that we're all the same. And I'm an advocate of string theory. I think at an atomic level, we're all connected by the same atoms. Atoms don't know your blood type, the color of your skin, your gender. So for me, it's just get up every day and don't be an a-hole. Just, that's my basic principle, is just get up and know that if I'm positive, my positivity is going to rub off on other people. I don't attempt as an objective when I get up to try and turn people's frowns upside down, but emotions are contagious. So if I'm in a bad mood before I get out of my car and go and present to my crew, then I'm going to pass that on to people. So it's actually something I learned years ago in the Australian Girls Choir, ironically, is before we would go on and sing, we would look in the mirror and say, I'm alive, I'm well, and I feel great. And even if you're not feeling great, after saying it in the mirror to yourself and laughing to yourself, you actually do. So it's actually something I say to myself before I get out of my car in the staff car park and go to work. I've actually never told anyone that.
That's brilliant. I love it. So, and I love the string theory, right, too, because that plays into what you just said then, is that, you know, if every atom is in isolation, working in unison, you know, it's like a population of people that come together. You're either working them together or you're working them apart. Like, there's no sort of in the middle. It's your positive energy is breeding more positive energy within those atoms. And then, you know, that theory of we're all connected. If we're all connected and you're happy, even though someone might be on the other side of the planet, they might think, oh, I need to give Sally a call. I know that I've had those moments, even with you, like, where I've just gone and sent you a message like, hey, just checking in, making sure you're okay. Like, and I don't even know why, but there's just something. And then we end up having these massive, deep, meaningful conversations. So I love that string theory. And I love, and you know, the word that you used before, the no a-hole, the no asshole, you know, concept. I love that, because that's, if you're not an asshole and you're just who you are, that is morale, right?
Yes. And for those who want to know the science behind it, it's not a Sallyism. There was an amazing experiment done, if you can Google it, called the Happy Water Experiment, and it was done by a Japanese scientist. And basically, there were bottles of water with happy affirmations written on it, like love and happiness and sunshine and positivity. And they froze those water droplets, and those water droplets form perfect snowflakes. And yet the water bottles that had hate and negative words written on them didn't. And so at a basic level, we're 70-80% water. So if the physical structure of water changes based on the emotions that we're putting into it, then there's something in that. And science yet can't quantify what that's all about. And string theory is certainly on the path too, but the planet is 70% water. We're made up of 70-80% water, gin some days, but mostly it should be water. If we alter how water behaves based on our positivity or negativity, then that has to manifest in health. So the more that we're sitting around, posting around about the C virus, the more we're going to make ourselves sick with it. So let's just let it be. It's going to be what it'll be. Move on. Just go hug your kids, read a book, go gardening. Like, lockdown isn't actually, we're stuck in our house. We're not in Italy. So sorry for the Italians, but we can still go for a hike. Go for a hike. Breathe the fresh air. I went for a scuba dive yesterday because it's salt water. Airborne diseases can't be transmitted over high saline environments. Get on with it. Don't just sit on the couch and feel miserable just because You're not doing your job today. It will be there next week, next month, next year. It will be there. But for the moment, enjoy this new experience.
Yeah. And so when we first met, we connected over race cars because that we both grew up racing cars.
When we first met, you were my real estate agent. You were trying to sell my house. So no.
Well, that is true. But we did have a very long talk. I remember walking into your house and there's airplanes everywhere, and I'm like, what's happening here? Someone loves airplanes a lot, and we ended up talking about cars and
yeah.
Like we ended up talking about lots of stuff. Scuba diving wasn't something we spoke about back then, and so
no.
Where did scuba diving come from? How did you end up doing that, and what has that taught you in life?
So scuba diving found me. I had to go and do some training with Advancing X that required, it said scuba diving experience. So I'd done scuba diving, and then as the date approached, they changed it and you needed to be a certified scuba diver. So I was like, oh, well, I'll just go do that. Found a fantastic dive school, and I have to shout them out because Dive Gear Australia was the only dive school that was going to give me the certification in the middle of winter so I could make it to the Advancing X challenges. So it's freezing cold, we are really hypothermic, and it was something that I had to do to go on the astronaut training, but I didn't want to be a scuba diver, right? Like, it was just, I needed this qualification, but something happened, which is extraordinary, and it's very simple. Grown-ups don't give themselves an hour to listen to themselves breathe, ever. Yeah. But you have to when scuba diving, because that's your life support. So all of a sudden, you're under the water, you're focusing on breathing and breathing correctly, and I was relaxed. Like, I've tried yoga and I've tried a few other things, but I was extremely relaxed. So there was something about that really resonated with me. And I've gone on to do my advanced certification now because I recognize that I'm a way better pilot from scuba diving, because it's, again, the stop, breathe, and think. Before you act, before you do anything, just stop and breathe. And we need that more than ever now. If we just all stop and took a cleansing breath before we then said whatever word's going to pop out next, I think we would prevent a lot of verbal mistakes, decision-making mistakes, and a lot of regret. So for me, I'm learning immense amounts from the scuba community because not only of the breathing, but just the maturity that they apply to mental health, to supporting other divers. They use a buddy system, taking care of one another, taking care of your gear, but making sure your dive buddy's gear's working properly, because when you're underwater, you're each other's problem. And just helping, it's not just getting yourself through, you get your buddies and your team through. So I think moving forward, industry will learn a lot from scuba. So I'm very thankful for that. And I'm very keen to keep researching how we can apply what I've learned through scuba diving and apply it to business, so we can all take care of our buddies and have a cleansing breath and make sure that we live to dive another day.
Yeah, I love that, right? And I think that's the thing is that, you know, whether you're up in the sky or you're underwater, the mistake risk is really high because, you know, if you get it wrong and then you make one bad decision and you keep focusing on and you keep making bad decisions, eventually it ends up being a bad outcome, right? But if you make a bad decision or something bad happens, how do you handle that when you're either underwater or up in the sky? Like when something happens and it's thrown in your face, like what?
I think it's really important to understand that we're human and to err is human. So it is okay to make a mistake. I think where human society's gone wrong is, why should we dwell on it? Why should we beat ourselves up for it? Why should we keep chastising ourselves for that business decision, that business deal? It was a mistake. Move on. Learn from it. certainly in aviation, there is this misconception that pilots are superhuman people with superhuman eyeballs and that we're not allowed to make the same mistakes. Rubbish. Just rubbish. I think what we do differently is we self-reflect, whether it was a good day, a bad day. And when I say a bad day, not an incident day, just a day where your plan didn't go to action. So the weather was slightly off, or you had a passenger on board who was unwell and you had to think outside the box to solve the problem. Pilots, divers, surgeons, police have a tremendous ability to self-reflect and go, okay, in my mind, today was going to go like this and it didn't happen like that. So moving forward in the future, if it happens again, what would I do differently? It's not to say that you have any regrets or you're going to beat yourself up about it, but there are a number of industries that are very good at self-reflecting. And I think that this time that we're going through is a tremendous time to self-reflect and go, when we're all through this and we're all back at work, let's maybe put a little bit more savings aside. Let's maybe not buy something on interest-free payment plans.
Yeah.
Let's just reassess that moving forward, our priorities are going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, and I think I've seen something today is a very similar sort of message, is that, what in a year's time, how we look back on this, it's that, how do you want to look back on yourself and your own behavior in a year's time from now? And that was a really, really cool thing, because I thought there is so much of that we've done. I mean, we only had a GFC, 12 years ago. We only come out of that, probably took a good couple of years to really fully for that to iron itself out. So, this is another wake up call for us, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think a number of businesses handled the GFC amazingly, and certainly for us, we were given options and we were communicated to tremendously, and a lot of us either gave up some annual leave or worked a week for nothing, and I think that's likely to happen again. If anyone wants to give me an aeroplane right now, I would go and just fly it. So I think it's just a case of, let's just all get the planet working again. We start talking about climate change, and I think the planet has a tremendous way of fixing itself anyway, because with all this industry shut down, we've already saved the planet. Yay, great, tick, moving on. Greta can go clean her room. So I think, yeah, I said that. Yeah. So I think moving forward, we're going to want to be preached to a little bit less and just left to just get back on with it. And we will do a great job. But I think people need to stop beating themselves up. There wasn't any more money you could have squirreled under your mattress. There wasn't any additional lasagnas that you should have cooked. Just in the back of your mind go, well, hey, touch wood, if we have another virus in 10 years' time, let's not react with buying all the toilet paper. Let's just agree to that now. So I think as long as everyone reflects on themselves, and I do it every day, did I do a good job today? Particularly when I'm teaching, I drive home and go, gosh, I wish I hadn't have said it that way. I really wanted to resonate with the people in this way. That's self-improvement. And as long as we are seeking self-improvement, we're not going to be an a-hole.
Well, and it gives you opportunities, right? I think when you do self-reflect, I think, when I first started training and speaking in front of groups, I used to be terrified of the feedback that would come. At the end of every training, there'd be a feedback form, and I'd be going, oh, I don't want to look at the feedback. And then,
Same.
Yeah, right. But then what I started to do was I remember doing this with a trainer one day. Him and I co-facilitated. So he's going to the feedback and he's looking, going, oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. And I'm flicking through looking for the bad ones, because I'm looking for the opportunities to get better. And I didn't start out like that. I started out looking for, okay, wow, someone didn't like me. That's terrible. As a reflection on me. And the second that I changed that to flicking through the paper going, right, where's the ones that are going to tell me what I can do better next time? And I think if we do that as a whole humanity, I mean, that is leadership in crisis, right? It's looking at what did we do that worked? What did we do that didn't work? And how can we do more of the stuff that will work in the future?
I completely agree, and I do the same thing. My co-facilitators, and they know who I'm mentioning, I will actually email them the day before we facilitate together, and I'll say, okay, last time this was the feedback, so if you see me doing it, wiggle your earlobe, like just make sure that this is what but also we have to be okay with the fact that we can't make everyone happy. And that was the hardest for me to get used to, is there will always be in this world people that think I should be at home ironing shirts, because we've got such a diverse generation of human beings at the moment that a lady pilot for some people still is a very unusual job. A lady pilot who's looking like she's going to go into space in 2023, according to them, really must have a husband that doesn't like them very much. And that's fine, because that's their mindset, right? I need to be okay with the fact that I don't need to convince anyone on this planet that it's round. I don't need to justify my job or my existence to anyone. So as long as I'm happy with the job that I'm doing, and that my family is still happy with the job that I'm doing, that's okay, because you can't make everyone happy. There's still going to be people who, no matter what you do for them, are miserable. They're probably the people that have gone too far to the dark side, if you're into the Jedi, and we're never going to be able to do anything about that.
And, you know, like, I think, like, the whole message that I'm getting from you is just be you. Like, that's the thing that, you know, there's no sort of profound...
Please don't be me. If, like, there can I... My husband will say...
I mean, you be you. Not anyone be you.
No, I'm being silly, right? Like, if there were 5 yous on this planet, your wife would have a heart attack, right?
But, you know, like, like, I think that thing is that, like, you know, sometimes when you interview people or talk to them, it's this, you know, they have this big, profound learning. And for you, it's just been, and probably from the moment that we met, it was just you just being you. And I think it's really fascinating, because on the weekend we run one of our courses, and there was one particular lady that was sitting there, which I just thought, I didn't feel like my information was connecting, and I didn't feel like and she was very closed off, and she didn't want to talk about what she did for work. And I just left her to do her thing. And at the very end, you know, we're doing this thing, we do like a board break. So we teach them the power of the mind by being able to teach something that in martial arts normally takes months to learn. We're going to teach you in a couple of minutes, because I'm going to teach you the process of do what other people do who are succeeding. Yes. Which is, you know, so she hit the board like 3 times and didn't break. And she's going, this is what I always do. I almost, you know, I back off just before and I was like, just do this. And like the whole room just erupted. She went through the board and the whole room erupted. Anyway, that was cool, you know, hugs, and we all went off, and she was still very closed off to what was happening. And then at the end, she comes up to, or yesterday she rang Josh and said, yep, I'm in. I want to do the course. And I was like, mind blown. But I guess that's it. Had I changed who I was to try and suit what I thought she wanted, we probably wouldn't have got that result for her.
No.
I think that's just be you. Not you, but be yourself.
And a lot of people, they don't know what they want. They actually don't know what they want until you present them with something new. And what you do is very new. And you know that, you know, NLP, a lot of people still think that's a soft science. That's still like in the medical community, naturopathy is considered a wing of medicine, but yet, well, the Chinese and the Japanese have been using it for 3,000 years. So I think people just need to be, and want to be in this unusual time, presented with another option.
Yeah.
And that's not to say, if you're feeling sick in the next 2 weeks, go and wave a fish over your head. That is just saying, do what works for you, which is, if that's conventional medicine, but maybe try gargling with apple cider vinegar. I don't know. Like, if you got a lemon tree, try it. Like, whatever. Like, it's just not being closed-minded to the fact that in the next 20 years, science, particularly with neuro-linguistic programming, as you very well know, will prove that it can cure illnesses and help people stay healthy and positive. And my phrase, and I think I'm stealing it from Chesley Sullenberger as well, is your attitude controls your altitude. And if I'm going to wake up and I'm feeling down on myself, which I do sometimes, and it's normally if I haven't been exercising, but if I'm feeling miserable and down, I'm not going to go and subject the general public to that. No one should see that. But all of a sudden you do your mantras, whether it's I'm alive, I'm well, and I feel great, or you go and punch a punching bag, or you go for a nature walk. And then you're better. So there's something to do with the cortisol and the chemical reaction, and you can change it in yourself. So if you can change the drugs that your brain's producing in yourself instead of taking drugs, more power to you. Go do it.
And so, it's fascinating. I mean, we had a lady come and do one of our courses a couple of weeks ago, and so they all go through and do the same. They go through and learn the techniques, but they're using them on themselves. So when we talk about letting go or releasing anger as an emotion, they actually go and do that with each other, because you can't, like you talked about before, that string theory. If you take anger into a meeting with a client that wants to deal with anger, all you're going to do is reciprocate. So, for me, I'm really big on helping coaches, I guess, get as clean a slate as possible. So when a client comes in, they're not going to get triggered off. They're going to go, yeah, I've been where you've been, and I've helped. And one of the ladies had 18 years worth of shoulder pain. And just one of the other girl that was doing the activity with her, no experience as a coach, just reading the script that she was given and the information that she'd been given over a couple of days, and cleared the shoulder pain.
Right.
And you just think, like, how are we not looking at this stuff saying there is more to it than just going and I guess what we're presented with, and go and search yourself for what else is out there.
And I also think there are a number of people that just want to pay their money and fix me. So I'm going to give you the money, fix me. What they're not prepared for is you have to do the work. You have to look into yourself. You've got to make yourself vulnerable. You've got to be honest with yourself. So it works. And there will always be those people that expect that because they paid the money that you were going to fix them, and you didn't. They're the ones that will take a little bit longer. I certainly would never say that some people are untrainable, unhelpable, because I'm stubborn. But there will always be closed-minded people who don't embrace even negative events as tremendous opportunities. I went to Africa in October and did not summit Mount Kilimanjaro because I got pneumonia. And it was still the best experience of my life, because I would much rather have tried and gotten to the point that my body had completely given up than to have not tried at all. So, but I appreciate that there will absolutely be people that would have said that I failed. I don't think I did. I did what I did with what I had. And if you're dragged off the side of a mountain in an ambulance, that's a pretty good achievement.
That does not surprise me, Sally. You got that never give up attitude. So you just mentioned a word then that just I guess resonated with me, which is out of the back of this, there's opportunity. So, it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, I think that the banks have come out today and said that, they're going to support small business, and they'll put on hold any business loans for 6 months. They're doing the same for people with mortgages, and there's tremendous amount of opportunity right now, right?
Yes. Yeah, like look at the stock market. I flew with an amazing gentleman just last week, and he had some cash money in the bank, and we signed on to work, and he was so excited because he got up at 3 o'clock in the morning and bought some shares. And I'm like, okay, it was in Wall Street, and he'd done really well. So for everyone who's struggling, the stock market has reduced significantly, and there will be people that will do really well out of that. There will be people that always profit against someone else's demise. Look at internet companies at the moment, I mean, we're all about to be put into lockdown potentially, and we need data, because good grief, if we can't watch our water skiing squirrels on YouTube, mate, whew, the world's going to end. So there will always be people that do well out of it. I'm really hoping the farmers and the local market gardeners do really well. I'm going down every second day and buying milk from a dairy, which I've never done before, but hey, it's just down the road. I should have been doing it all along. So hopefully it means that we're buying local, we're eating local, and there's a lot of science that says if we eat local, that will reduce histamine reactions. So we should see over the next few years a reduction in anaphylaxis, allergies, asthma, because we're not eating genetically modified food that's been flown from Florida. We're eating local. So the science that's going to come from what we're doing at the moment is going to be extraordinary, and we might find cures to things. So let's just be a part of the world's biggest experiment right now and enjoy it and be honored to be a part of it. It's an extraordinary social experiment that what we're doing right now, and hats off to the Italians with their balcony singing, and that's extraordinary. And it's that group think. It's one person taking their talent of piano playing to try and lift the mood of everyone else, and that's what's going to get us through. So we're going to learn a lot about humans and human behavior, whether we want to or not, in the next 6 months. You and I are geeks, so we're going to love it. But hopefully as a society, we just learn about how to lift our team, and it doesn't need 5 pieces of paper. Thanks for that, mate. It's just knowing that actually to be a good leader means actually to be a good member of a team. I cringe when you use that leadership word before, because I'm actually not a leader. I'm a first officer in my airline. There's someone else sitting next to me who's the leader, but I feel like I'm a very valuable member of the team, and it's my job to support their decisions, and it's my job to be subordinate when I'm required to be, but it's also my job to step up when I need to be. So I think good leadership is just knowing when to step up and when not to.
Yeah, and you know what, I think it's interesting when you talk about being a leader and tagging it as a, you know, that hierarchical leadership thing is, people quite often mistake that, you know, the person at the head of the company is the leader, and everyone needs to follow. And as you said, like, there's times where you need to lead. I think that some of, and I say this every time I go into a business, is that some of the best ideas come from the first year apprentice, because they are the ones who are seeing it from a different way. They've got a different angle on it. They've got a different take on it. And, you know, if those people are allowed to speak up in the right forum, of course, if those people are allowed to say, hey, what about we do it this way? That can change a business. That can change a team. That can, you know, that can save lives. It can do so many different things. So I think that everyone has the opportunity to be a leader. And if people are watching and they're in that space of, I want to speak up, I want to say to my friends it'll be okay, but I'm not because it's unpopular, I think that is actually leadership in itself, is speaking up when it's unpopular.
So agree. It's okay to have your vent, but I think that if you're going to have your vent on social media, you need to stop, have your breath that we talk about, and understand that if you're stressed and anxious about something and you pass it on to someone else, it's going to take a lot of work to undo that. So I'm not on social media being fake. It's not who I am. If I've had a prick of a day, I've had a prick of a day, and a lot of my crew are there to help me out with that. But I actually just don't think what we're going through at the moment is a negative thing. I think it's a cosmically cool social experiment. I think the planet has a way of righting itself. I think we will look back on this time and we will have learned a lot about human behavior and what we really need in our lives and what we don't. And I think it's going to be okay. Like, I just think it's going to be probably the most fun we've ever had. There's definitely going to be lots of babies born in 9 months' time, so we'll know how some people coped with their stress.
But, you know, I think one of the interesting things you said before too is that, you know, the pollination of local produce, it actually creates that you know, that histamine I guess that, my son has some allergies, and we've been sourcing local honey and local produce, because I know that the bees that pollinate or they come back with the pollen, they actually get them from local things that are creating him to actually get the hay fever in the first place. So if we can, if we can start to ingest some of that stuff, the body builds a tolerance. And I think that, some of that stuff is amazing. And the other thing which I think is fascinating, that, our supply chain in the big supermarkets, is that sometimes I'll see a truck drive from just around the corner up to Perth with a truckload of stuff for it to go to a warehouse, to sit in a warehouse, and then be dispersed back down this way. And I think looking at our local farmers market here, which is quite interesting, the local farmers market is chockers of food. You go to the supermarket and they're empty. So what does that tell you about things like supply chain that we can learn from local produce? We can get it straight from producer to store like that, but we don't do that with our big businesses. So I think there's so much to learn.
And we've also got social media. So instead of communicating with each other about what's going on your favorite TV show, why not communicate and say, well, hey, I'm going down to the Yarra Valley, who wants cider, and take an order for your street. And then they might go to the local dairy and bring back everyone's milk. And then in your street, you just combine it. Like, I just don't see why we shouldn't be just supporting local. Even our local delicatessen at the moment has bags and bags of pasta. It's locally made. It's a bit more expensive, but they've got loads of it. So I think we've got a lot to learn about convenience. And yes, it's convenient to go to a really big store and get it all in one hit. And because I would normally be away flying, I would do a 2-week shop at a time. I think moving forward, that's unrealistic, and I'll shop every 3 days now, and I'll try and shop fresh and local and seasonal. Our bodies are designed for seasonal stuff. So, if we can just use this time to learn about what our bodies need, use the time to rest. A lot of us need to turn our devices off and just sleep, just rest. We're going to be just fine. We'll learn a lot. And that learning hopefully means that when we then do stop and self-reflect, we then behave differently when the next big thing comes along. Because as much as we don't want to think about it already because we're going through it at the moment, there will be another thing. That's life. That's the circle, and we'll be fine for that one as well.
Yeah. And I think, you mentioned it earlier too, like the planet righting itself as well. Like I think someone told me the other day, I don't know whether this is actually true or not, but Tokyo for the first time seen a sunrise because there was no smog.
Yeah.
Things like that, it's kind of scary to think that, but at the same time, if that smog's cleared and we have, even if it's 4, 6, 8, 10 weeks of of really, clear skies, and what's that going to do for the planet?
Exactly. So, and maybe with this stand down stuff, we should get the kids out in our backyard painting on caves and trees and things, because as a generation of humans, we've got nothing to show for. So if you imagine in 100 million years time, whatever is around digs us up, all they're going to find is old plastic computer chips and plastic. The Egyptians have taught us a lot. They taught us how to make beer. And I think we need to document how we lived and how we survived, or lack thereof. So in 100 million years time, whatever species of animal is around can look back and say, what a bunch of idiots. What, plastic? Smoking? Like, what? We done some stuff wrong, but I think we need to document it, because what we decided to do as a species of mammalian beings is quite odd. And we need to tell the future generations that that's what we did. It's not right or wrong, it's just what we did. And then they can learn from that. But yeah, at the moment, all we would have to show for it is some fossilized computer chips. So that's not enough. So maybe this stand down time will get the kids out cave painting.
Yeah, I love it, Sal. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love catching up with you, and I hope, I'm sure lots of people take lots of takeaways from our chat. And thanks very much for your time.
They don't give a crap, mate. They're out buying toilet paper.
I'm sure there's
And
some
so
people out
they
there
know
that
you
would.
never did sell my house. You got that good egg Marcus Washington to do it. So, you know.
I didn't sell your house. That is why I'm not in real estate anymore. Actually, actual fact, I don't know if you know this, but Marcus is actually ranked number 52 in the world.
I do know that.
There you go. I learned that the other day, and I thought, well, there you go. I handed you over to the right guy.
I know you're gonna think that you had your hand, you're somehow responsible for that. But he's a good egg. He's doing really good stuff.
He is 100% responsible for his own success. That's for sure.
Yes, he is. He's going to be mortified that we're talking about him on this chat.
Very good, Sal. Well, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll hopefully we'll chat again, get to this again soon.
Thanks, mate.